My phone buzzed at 12:17 a.m. Bradley's name lit up the screen, and my heart jumped. FBI agents don't call their fathers at midnight for social chats. Dad, listen carefully. His voice was tight, urgent. Lock all your doors and windows right now. Turn off every light in the house. Then go to the basement workshop. Don't come out. And Dad, whatever you do, don't tell Carl I called. The line went dead. I sat there in the darkness, phone clutched in my shaking hand. My name is Victor Hamilton. I'm 59 years old, retired fire inspector from Philadelphia. Spent 32 years climbing into burning buildings when everyone else ran out. But this phone call scared me more than any 5-alarm blaze I'd ever faced. Let me back up and tell you how I got here. 3 years ago, my daughter Linda married Carl Morrison. Real estate consultant, he said. Smooth talker. The kind who could sell you a house that was already on fire. When they got married, I was happy for her. A father wants his daughter to be loved and protected. But something changed after the wedding. Linda's visits became shorter, her laugh became quieter. And Carl started taking over my life, piece by piece. It started last February when they moved in with me. Just temporarily, Dad, Linda said over coffee in my kitchen. Carl's between projects and our lease is ending. Plus, you're getting older. We could help around the house. I should have said no, should have trusted my gut, the same instinct that kept me alive in countless burning buildings. Instead, I said yes because she was my daughter. That was my first mistake. Carl moved in like he owned the place. First week, he installed security cameras. For your safety, Victor, he said with that practiced smile. You're living alone in a big house. Can't be too careful these days. Then came the financial help. He suggested consolidating my accounts, streamlining my bills. I work with money every day, Victor. Let me take this burden off your shoulders. My friends started calling less. When they did, Carl was always there, hovering. Victor's resting, he'd say, taking the phone from my hand. He'll call you back. I never did. Eventually, they stopped trying. The cameras multiplied. Living room, hallways, kitchen. Just upgrading the system, Carl explained. But I noticed something odd. None in their bedroom, none in the basement where I kept my workshop. Interesting choices for a security system. Linda went along with everything. Dad, you need to take it easy, she'd say whenever I questioned anything. You're not as young as you used to be. Let us help. My son Bradley tried reaching out. Bradley works for the FBI in their financial crimes division. Smart kid, always was. He called one evening in January wanting to visit. Carl answered my phone. Oh, Victor's sleeping early these days. Doctor's orders. I'll have him call you back. I wasn't sleeping. I was sitting 10 feet away, watching Carl lie to my son through those perfect white teeth. After Carl hung up, I asked, why didn't you let me talk to Bradley? You need your rest, Victor. Bradley works crazy hours anyway. He'd just worry you with work stress. He's my son, Linda chimed in from the doorway. And you have enough stress managing your health. Carl's right. You don't need Bradley's FBI drama in your life. That's when I started noticing the pattern. They weren't helping me. They were isolating me. Every decision went through them. Every phone call filtered through Carl's control. My own house became a prison with invisible bars. I'm not a fool. 32 years investigating fire scenes teaches you to spot patterns, to see what doesn't fit. And none of this fit. But I played along, acted the grateful father, the aging old man who needed protection. Because if there's one thing fighting fires taught me, it's patience. You don't rush into a burning building blind. You assess, you plan, then you act. So when Bradley called that night, when he told me to hide in the basement, I trusted him. After months of isolation, of manipulation, of controlled captivity, my son's voice was the only thing that felt true. I slipped out of bed, moved through my house like a ghost. Every instinct screamed at me to turn on lights, to check on Linda and Carl. But I trusted Bradley. I checked the front door, locked, back door, locked, windows secure. Then I killed the lights one by one until my home sat in complete darkness. The basement stairs creaked under my weight. I froze with each sound, waited, then continued down. My workshop sat in the far corner, surrounded by my collection of power tools and half-finished projects. The smell of sawdust and machine oil filled the air, familiar and comforting. The small ground-level window offered a narrow view of my driveway, framed by the winter bare branches of the oak tree I'd planted when Linda was 10. Whatever Bradley was worried about, I'd see it coming. The minutes crawled. My watch showed 12:43 a.m. Then 1 a.m. Nothing. I sat in my work chair, surrounded by the tools I'd collected over 3 decades. Each one had a story, a project, a purpose. The router I'd used to build Linda's dollhouse, the drill press that helped me restore the front porch after Hurricane Sandy. Normal tools for a normal life that suddenly felt anything but normal. At 1:15 a.m., I heard it. Footsteps above me. Carl's voice muffled through the floor. He was on the phone. "Yeah, he's asleep. Everything's quiet. Nobody's going to interrupt us." A pause. "Come on over. Give it 30 minutes. Park down the street. Lights off." My blood turned to ice. I pressed myself against the cold basement wall, barely breathing. Above, Carl's footsteps moved through the house. I heard him pause outside my bedroom door, checking on me, making sure the old man was still tucked away like a good little prisoner. At 1:20 a.m., 2 cars rolled up my street, headlights off. They moved like predators through the darkness. Both vehicles parked at my curb. 3 men emerged, dressed in dark clothing. No faces visible, just shadows moving with purpose. Carl opened my front door before they knocked. Through the narrow window, I watched them file into my home, the place where I had raised 2 children, where my wife had died peacefully in our bed, where every room held 4 decades of memories. And now these strangers walked through my door like they owned it. I couldn't hear their conversation, but I could see shadows moving across the living room window. Then they disappeared from view, heading deeper into the house, toward my study, toward my safe, my hands clenched into fists. The safe. That's what this was about. But how did Carl know the combination? I'd never written it down, never told anyone except Linda last year when she'd moved in. "Dad, what if something happens to you? What if there's an emergency and we need important documents?" So reasonable, so concerned, so convincing. I'd given her the combination, 6 numbers I'd used for 20 years. The month and day my wife and I got married, I'd handed my daughter the keys to everything, and she delivered them straight to this snake she'd married. The weight felt eternal. My legs cramped, my back ached. But I didn't move, couldn't move, because if they knew I was awake, if they suspected I'd seen anything, I didn't know what would happen. At 1:47 a.m., they emerged. I pressed closer to the window, straining to see. One of the men carried a manila envelope, thick and full. Carl held something else, smaller. They spoke briefly at the door, some kind of exchange. The man handed Carl a white envelope. Payment, instructions, proof of betrayal and crisp bills. Then they were gone. Cars started, still no headlights, and melted back into the night like they'd never been there. I waited, counted to 200, listened to Carl's footsteps overhead as he moved through the house, checking windows, resetting locks, playing the concerned son-in-law, protecting dear old Victor from the dangerous world outside. Eventually, his footsteps retreated to Linda's bedroom. The door closed. Silence fell, broken only by the hum of the furnace and my ragged breathing. I sat in that basement until dawn broke, watching the sky change from black to gray to pale blue, thinking, planning, remembering. Linda at 10, bringing me burnt pancakes on Father's Day, so proud of herself. Linda at 16, crying on this very workbench after her first heartbreak, while I held her and promised everything would be okay. Linda at 25, at her mother's funeral, gripping my hands so tight I thought she'd break my fingers. When had that girl disappeared? When had she transformed into someone who'd betray her own father? Or had she always been capable of this, and I just refused to see it? The hardest truth hit me like a falling beam. Maybe she hadn't changed at all. Maybe I just loved her too much to notice what she really was. Around 6 a.m., I heard movement upstairs. Normal morning sounds, water running, coffee brewing, the performance of normalcy resuming right on schedule. I climbed the basement stairs slowly, every joint protesting, made my way to my study. The safe sat behind a painting of a lighthouse, my wife's favorite. My hands shook as I spun the combination. Inside, chaos, documents scattered, obviously rifled through hastily. The deed to my house, gone, my will, gone, several financial documents, all the originals, gone. "Dad, you're up early." I nearly jumped out of my skin. Linda stood in the doorway, wearing her bathrobe, coffee mug in hand, concerned daughter face firmly in place. Couldn't sleep, I managed. Thought I'd check on some paperwork. At 6 a.m.? She moved closer, and I instinctively closed the safe. Everything okay? Fine, just restless. You should get more rest, she said. That phrase again. Carl's making breakfast. Come eat something. I followed her to the kitchen, playing my role, the aging father, the man, too old and confused to notice what was happening under his own roof. Carl stood at the stove, flipping pancakes. Morning, Victor. How'd you sleep? Like a baby, I lied, accepting a plate of food I had no intention of eating. They chatted about their day ahead. Linda had appointments at the salon where she worked as a manager. Carl had client meetings, probably other people to rob blind. Normal, boring, domestic conversation. As if they hadn't just stolen everything from me while I cowered in my basement. I watched them. Really watched them. The way Carl's eyes flickered to Linda whenever I spoke. The way she touched his arm, a silent signal passing between them. They were a team, not husband and wife, not family. A team of predators who'd selected their prey carefully. After they left for the day, I grabbed my phone with trembling fingers, dialed Bradley's number. He answered on the first ring. Dad, are you okay? I need to know what's happening, Bradley, right now. He was quiet. For a moment. You saw them, didn't you? Last night, 3 men. They took documents from your safe. Bradley, what is going on? My son exhaled slowly. Dad, the FBI is investigating a document forgery ring, real estate fraud, fake deeds, stolen identities, millions of dollars, and Carl's name is all over our investigation. The room spun. I sat down hard. Last night, we got intelligence that he was meeting with 2 suspects, Mason Clark and Philip Anderson. I couldn't get a warrant in time. Couldn't officially intervene. It's a conflict of interest because you're my father, but I couldn't let you walk into danger blind. So you warned me. I warned you, and Dad, you need to be very careful now. Gather evidence, but don't let them know you suspect anything. I'll help however I can, unofficially, but this is going to have to be your fight. Could I? I was 59 years old, tired, betrayed by my own daughter, robbed in my own home. But I was also a man who'd spent 32 years walking into fires when everyone else ran away. Yeah, I said finally. Yeah, I can do that. Good, and Dad, I'm sorry about Linda. I know this has to be killing you. It was, but I couldn't afford to die just yet. I had work to do. The next morning, I became a different man. Not overnight, that's not how it works. But that phone call with Bradley flipped a switch somewhere deep inside me. The frightened old man hiding in his basement was gone. In his place stood someone who'd spent decades walking into burning buildings while others ran away. I started watching them. Really watching. Carl left the house around 9 that morning. Meeting with clients, he announced, kissing Linda on the cheek. Such a devoted husband. I watched from my chair in the living room, pretending to read the newspaper. The moment his car turned the corner, I was up. Linda was in the shower. I had maybe 10 minutes. Their bedroom looked normal at first glance. Bed made, clothes folded, everything neat. But I had investigated enough crime scenes to know that people hide things in predictable places. Under the mattress, nothing. Dresser drawers, clothes, some jewelry. Then I checked the closet. Behind a stack of Carl's dress shirts, tucked into a shoebox, documents. Copies of bank statements, not mine, someone else's. 3 different people, actually. All with significant balances, all with notes in Carl's handwriting. Good candidate, easy mark. I photographed everything with my phone, hands steady despite my racing heart. Put it all back exactly as I'd found it. By the time Linda finished her shower, I was back in my chair, newspaper in hand. Want more coffee, Dad? She asked, walking past me to the kitchen. No thanks, sweetheart. Sweetheart. The word tasted like ash in my mouth, but I smiled. Played my role. Over the next week, I cataloged everything. Carl's patterns were predictable once you knew what to look for. Every Wednesday, he'd spend 2 hours in my study with the door closed, making phone calls. Every Friday, he'd take out the trash personally, never let me do it, controlling even the garbage. So I started getting up before dawn on Fridays, checking the trash before he took it out. That's how I found the draft document that changed everything. It was crumpled at the bottom of the kitchen trash, coffee grounds staining one corner, a legal petition. I smoothed it out on my workbench, reading by the light of my desk lamp. Petition for determination of incapacity and appointment of guardian. My name was on it, Victor Hamilton, age 59. The petition claimed I was suffering from dementia, unable to manage my own affairs, a danger to myself. It requested that Carl Morrison and Linda Hamilton Morrison be appointed as my legal guardians with full control over my finances, property, and medical decisions. I read it 3 times. Each time, my anger burned hotter. The document was dated but not yet filed. A draft. They were still perfecting their theft, making sure every detail was right before they sprang the trap. I thought about confronting them, throwing the petition in their faces, demanding answers. But that's not how you win wars. You don't attack when your enemy expects it. You wait, you plan, you strike when they're confident they've already won. I found a lawyer, Margaret Fisher, specializing in elder rights and guardianship abuse. Her website showed a stern-faced woman in her 50s with the kind of eyes that said she'd seen every scam in the book. I called her office, left a message. "My name is Victor Hamilton. I need to discuss a guardianship petition that's being filed against me. It's fraudulent. Please call back." She called me back that afternoon. Her voice was crisp, professional. "Mr. Hamilton, I got your message. Can you come to my office today? I have an opening at 3. "Yes," I said. "Yes, I can." Carl was out. Linda was at work. I took the bus downtown, didn't want to ask for a ride, didn't want questions. Margaret. Fisher's office occupied the 15th floor of a Center City high-rise. Through the windows, you could see the whole city spread out like a map. She listened to my story without interrupting. When I finished, she sat back in her chair, fingers steepled. "Mr. Hamilton, you're in a serious situation, but you're also lucky." "Lucky? You found out before they filed. That gives us time. Most people don't realize what's happening until they're already in court, already losing." She pulled out a legal pad. "Here's what we're going to do. First, you need an independent psychiatric evaluation, someone they can't influence or bribe. I know a good doctor, Dr. Theodore Barnes. He'll document that you're completely competent." "Okay." "Second, we change every lock in your house. New combination on your safe. They can't have access to anything. They'll notice. Let them notice. By the time they figure out what's happening, it'll be too late." She smiled grimly. "Third, we draft new legal documents, a new will revoking any previous powers of attorney, and we prepare a countersuit for financial exploitation." I listened to her plan, feeling something I hadn't felt in months. Hope. "One more thing," Margaret said. "I need you to gather evidence. Record their conversations if you can. Document everything. Pennsylvania is a 2-party consent state for recordings, but if you're in your own home and you're part of the conversation, or if they don't have a reasonable expectation of privacy in common areas, we have some flexibility." I thought about my workshop, about the antique clock on the living room mantel, a beautiful piece from 1920, with a hollow base where I could easily hide a small recording device. "I can do that," I said. Over the next 2 weeks, I gathered everything. The recording device, smaller than a deck of cards, fit perfectly inside the antique clock. I activated it one evening, when Carl and Linda were watching TV. They didn't disappoint. "We should file. Next month," Carl said, scrolling through his phone. "I've already talked to Dr. Barnes. He'll see Victor, ask a few questions, and sign the paperwork saying he's got dementia." "What if Bradley interferes?" Linda asked. "He won't. He's FBI. Has to stay clean. Conflict of interest. Once we're guardians, Bradley can't do anything. Victor will be our ward. We'll control everything." Linda sighed. "I feel bad sometimes. He's my father." "He's old, Linda. He doesn't need all this money sitting around. Better we use it now while we can enjoy it. What's he going to do with $650,000 in equity and $280,000 in savings? Watch TV and tinker in his workshop? That's not living." "I guess you're right. I'm always right. Trust me." I listened to that recording 5 times. Each time my jaw clenched tighter. Each time my resolve hardened. They thought I was weak, an easy mark. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Dr. Theodore Barnes's office was nothing like I expected. No sterile white walls or uncomfortable chairs. Instead, it felt like someone's study. Books lining the shelves, warm lighting, comfortable leather furniture. "Mr. Hamilton," he said, shaking my hand, "Margaret Fisher speaks very highly of you. She says you're dealing with a difficult family situation." Over the next 2 hours, Dr. Barnes put me through a battery of tests, memory exercises, problem-solving tasks, questions about my daily life, my habits, my decision-making processes. He was thorough, professional, and I could tell he actually cared about getting it right. When we finished, he leaned back in his chair. "Mr. Hamilton, I'm going to be blunt. There is absolutely nothing wrong with your cognitive function. Your memory is excellent for someone half your age. Your reasoning is sound. Your judgment is clear. If someone's trying to have you declared incompetent, they're either mistaken or they're lying. I know which one it is." "Yes," he said quietly. "I suspect you do." The locksmith came. The next day. I'd told Carl and Linda I'd be out all afternoon. Instead, I waited until they left for work, then had every lock in the house changed. New deadbolts, new keys, new safe combination. The locksmith, a gruff man named Pete, worked quickly and efficiently. "Kicked out some freeloaders?" he asked as he installed the last lock. "Something like that." "Smart man. Never let people take advantage, even if they're family, especially if they're family." For the first time in months, I felt like I owned my own home again. Margaret Fisher worked fast. Within a week, she'd prepared a stack of documents. New will. Linda got exactly what Pennsylvania law required she inherit, not a penny more. Revocation of all previous powers of attorney. A living trust protecting my assets. And the piece de resistance, a preliminary injunction preventing anyone from accessing my financial accounts without my explicit in-person authorization. "We'll file this quietly," Margaret explained. "They won't know until they try something and get shut down." 3 weeks after my midnight phone call from Bradley, I was ready. The bank had frozen all joint accounts, requiring my in-person authorization for any transactions. My new will was filed. My psychiatric evaluation was sealed and notarized. Margaret had my countersuit prepared, ready to file the moment Carl and Linda made their move. All I had to do was wait. They noticed the bank thing first. Linda came home one afternoon, furious. "Dad, there's something wrong with our account. The bank says they need you to come in person to authorize any withdrawals." I looked up from my newspaper. "Oh, must be a security thing. Identity theft is so common these days. But I need to transfer money for the salon lease. I'll go with you tomorrow. Can't you just call them?" "Bank policy," I said with a shrug. "It has to be in person." I didn't go with her, of course. Let her make the trip herself. Let her sit in that bank office and be told that Victor Hamilton had placed restrictions on all accounts, and only Victor Hamilton could authorize changes. The next morning, I walked into the kitchen where they were having coffee. "I'm going out this morning," I said. "Lawyer's appointment." Carl's head snapped up. "Lawyer? What for?" "Estate planning. At my age, it's important to have everything in order." "Dad," Linda started, "we've been meaning to talk to you about that." "I know exactly what you've been meaning to talk to me about," I said calmly. "I found your draft petition, the one where you declare me incompetent." The color drained from Linda's face. Carl stood up slowly. "Victor, I can explain." "I'm sure you can. You're very good at explaining things. Very convincing." I smiled. It probably didn't look friendly. "But here's the thing. I'm not the confused old man you think I am. I'm not the easy mark you planned for. And in about 30 minutes, I'm walking out that door. When I come back, I expect you both to be gone." "You can't," Carl started. "This is my house. My name is on the deed, the original one, before you tried to steal it. My locks have been changed. My accounts are protected. And if you're not gone by the time I get back, I'll have the police remove you." Linda's eyes filled with tears. "Daddy, please." "Don't," I said sharply. "You lost that right when you decided I was worth more to you as a legal ward than as a father." I walked out, leaving them in stunned silence. The courtroom smelled like old wood and nervous sweat. Judge Patricia Wilson presided, silver-haired with sharp eyes that missed nothing. Carl and Linda sat with their public defender, looking defeated. Margaret stood beside me, crisp and professional. "Your Honor, I'd like to present evidence that directly contradicts the petitioner's claims." She pressed play on the audio recorder. Carl's voice filled the courtroom. "Barnes will sign off the Victor's incompetent. Then we sell the house, liquidate everything." Linda's laugh followed. "Dad has no idea." The courtroom went silent. "Your Honor," Margaret continued, I'd like to call Special Agent Bradley Hamilton of the Federal Bureau of Investigation." Bradley walked in wearing his FBI credentials. After being sworn in, he testified about Carl's involvement in a document forgery ring spanning 3 states. "Mr. Morrison is currently under federal investigation for conspiracy to commit fraud," Bradley said. "The guardianship petition appears to be part of a scheme to gain control of my father's assets while simultaneously stealing his identity documents for criminal use." Judge Wilson set down her pen. "Mr. Morrison, do you have anything to say?" Carl just shook his head, defeated. "In that case," the judge said, "this petition is denied. I'm ordering a copy of today's transcript provided to the FBI. Mr. Morrison, I suggest you retain criminal counsel immediately." 3 days later, they came for Carl at dawn. Bradley called me from the courthouse. "Bail set at $250,000. He can't make it. He'll stay in custody until trial." The final hearing happened on a gray October morning. Judge Wilson reviewed Carl's guilty plea quickly. "Mrs. Morrison," the judge said, looking at Linda, "do you contest the plaintiff's claims of financial exploitation and emotional distress?" Linda's lawyer started to speak, but she cut him off. "No, Your Honor, I don't contest it. It's all true. I'm entering judgment for the plaintiff. Mrs. Morrison, you were ordered to pay $45,000 in damages to your father, payable at $375 per month over 10 years. That week, I put the house up for sale. Too many memories. A young family bought it, husband, wife, 2 kids, a dog. They were excited, full of plans. I found a nice apartment closer to Bradley's place. Smaller, but big enough for my workshop and my peace of mind. Life settled into a new rhythm. I worked on projects, volunteered at a senior center, started getting postcards from Linda. Brief, updates, working as a hotel receptionist, making payments on time. Therapist says I'm making progress. Maybe someday we'd talk again. Maybe not. Time would tell. I was 59 years old. I'd survived 32 years of fighting fires and a year of being manipulated by my own family. I'd lost my daughter, at least for now, but I'd kept my independence, my dignity, and my sanity. Carl would spend the next 12 years in prison. Linda would spend the next 10 years paying back what she tried to steal. And me? I'd spend however much time I had left doing what I'd always done, fixing things, helping people, and moving forward. Because in the end, that's the best revenge of all. Surviving, thriving, and refusing to let those who try to destroy you define who you become. Time marches on, and so do I. Sometimes the people who claim to love you the most are the ones willing to hurt you the deepest. But that says everything about them and nothing about your worth. Age isn't a weakness when it comes with wisdom, experience, and the courage to fight for what's rightfully yours. Respect is earned, not given because of a number.